Welcome into the Skinny Podcast. It's the weekly potpourri edition. I'm Richard Skinner, local12.com digital sports columnist and editor with Rick Broering. As always, it's presented by Blake, the attorney Maislin. We've got a disappointing Reds playoff run, if you will, to talk about, but also the excitement of making the playoffs. A Bengals season that is spiraling out of control. We have our gambling segment. We've got our Ask Skinny Anything segment as well. So, Rick, we got a lot of disappointment to talk about at the start of this podcast and probably throughout this podcast.
A brutal week for Cincinnati sports. I mean, just brutal. Which felt worse to you? Was it another Bengals loss in brutal fashion, or the Reds sneaking into the postseason only to get beat up by the Dodgers in 2 games?
I think it's the Bengals for me. I wrote this after the game, my column after the game, that, you know, the 5 turnovers in Minnesota, I can excuse that away and say, okay, that's the reason they lost that bad. Watching Monday night, I just came to the realization this is a bad football team. It's a poorly constructed football team. Its personnel isn't very good, and we're stuck with a bad football team now. Joe Burrow wasn't going to play your way out of this. He couldn't play his way out of it last year.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the Bengals then. You know, they get embarrassed by the Broncos 28-3 on Monday Night Football. What stands out to you the most about the last 2 games? I mean, what you just said is a good starting point, that it's just a poorly constructed football team. But what's the worst part of all this?
All of it. I mean,
it's bad, isn't it? I mean, it really is across the board bad when you see Joe Burrow out.
So here's what's happened all of a sudden. You signed Orlando Brown at kind of the peak of Orlando Brown, and now he looks like a shell of himself. I mean, he is just not playing very well at all. Ted Karras was an average center at best, and here down the road, he's a mess center. You started 2 rookie guards on Monday night, man, and Amarius Mims hasn't taken the step forward you need him to take. Maybe this is on the new offensive line coach. If it's on the new offensive line coach, it is also on Zac Taylor for hiring the new offensive line coach. Maybe it's just offensive line just hard to evaluate, and they've done a poor job in the evaluation process of these guys. Then you go to the defense, and I did a column today in which the headline was why Bengals defensive coordinator Al Golden is fighting an uphill battle to improve the defense. The reason is the personnel stinks. I mean, it really does. If you listen, I don't think Pro Football Focus is the be all end all. I don't think you do either, Rick, but it's a metric, and it's a metric worth at least. It helps you. It's always helped me be like, this guy looks like he stinks. And then you see the numbers of the grades, you go, yeah, he stinks. So I did a column about that and then got to around to the point of the personnel. And I put their PFF grade for the season for all the starters from Monday night, and then a handful of subs like Cam Taylor-Britt, Miles Murphy, Chris Jenkins, Oren Burks. I can't remember all the ones I did, Josh Newton. And well, you look at those numbers and you go, yeah, this team stinks. These guys are – because it's the same guys as last year who stunk, Rick. That's the problem. They brought the band back, and the band stunk, and they thought, all right, we'll add this guy from Green Bay, TJ Slayton. He's been awful. We'll add this guy in the draft in Shamar Stewart. He's played 1 game. We'll get a rookie linebacker, Demetrius Knight, who's actually his grade isn't totally awful, but it's not great. So they really didn't add to what was a bad defense. What did they think? There was a magic elixir that was going to make these guys good suddenly?
It's so nice to hear someone else say that, Skinny. I said before the season on this very podcast, you can easily make the argument that the Bengals didn't get better at any of the positions that they needed to upgrade from last season. And you could honestly argue that they're worse. I mean, look on the offensive line. They went younger. Look on defense. They went younger. I'm not saying they didn't need to replace some of those guys who were getting long in the tooth and not performing, but you're not going to be magically better by playing inexperienced guys who have never done anything before in the NFL and putting them alongside each other and giving them a brand new defensive coordinator and you stick with an offensive line coach who stinks. So, it's been frustrating for me the last few weeks because it's like, Joe Burrow goes down. I'm like, well, yeah, this team doesn't have a chance, and I'm getting chastised for it. Not even in a public way, not even on social media necessarily, just talking to friends and family. Or, God, you're being so negative about this. Like, well, guys, this team is constructed to be good if and only if Joe Burrow can will them to wins. Everything else is kind of like makeshift, putting duct tape on it and giving him just enough weapons to work with. And then you go to the Reds. I've been saying since last offseason, if like Gavin Lux is your big offseason acquisition for a team that needed a dramatic change in the middle of its order, you're just not going to have enough. It doesn't mean you don't have a good starting pitching staff. It doesn't mean you don't have some young guys and some role players who are capable, exciting pieces, but it does mean you have a giant hole in your team that you've done nothing about. And so when the Reds backed their way into the postseason, I'm texting with some buddies or talking to them saying, man, this might be the worst thing that could happen to the Reds because now they think they don't have issues that they need to solve and they're going to get credit for making the playoffs. I'm getting told I'm being so negative and what happened to you? And I'm like, I'm not that guy. I'm not like Mr. Negativity all the time with Cincinnati teams, but this was obvious, Skinny. Neither organization had done anything to make themselves better. It was pretty easy to predict what was going to happen.
I mean, Duke Tobin's going to eat the words of "we don't have a guard problem" that he said back at the combine and said at the owners' meetings. Yeah, you do. You've got a personnel problem. So a bunch of the scouts sat behind us on press row. I didn't know they were back there. I don't care that they were back there, to be honest with you. A couple of them are nice guys I've met and have dealt with a little bit. But at one point, I didn't yell it, but I said it loud enough for everybody around me to hear. I said, this team stinks. It is so poorly constructed that the evaluation process of these guys is awful. And one of the writers goes, scouts are behind. I go, I don't give a flying, you know what? And so later in the game, Logan Wilson took one of the worst angles I've ever seen on a tackle. And I blurted out. I have the field glasses on a lot of times. I like to watch line play. And so I'm watching the play unfold, and I just blurted out, Jesus, Logan, take a better angle. And one of the scouts said, I know you can hear me, so that's fine. I'm glad you can hear me.
Skitty, there's been like you said, a lot of issues with this team. Quarterback play is what everyone wants to talk about, quarterback play and coaching for the most part. I think both of us were on the side of give Jake Browning a chance because you really don't have better options out there right now. Have you seen enough of Jake Browning at this point? Do you feel like, okay, he doesn't have it? Maybe you do need to start looking at other options?
No, what needs to happen is they need to run the football. And I think a lot of Jake Browning's success comes off of under-center play action bootleg stuff. Well, guess what you can't do when you can't run the football? You can't do under-center bootleg play action stuff. And so, yeah, you've built this team for Joe Burrow to stand in the shotgun and spread you out, and I get all that. But you were able to do this 2 years ago. In fact, I asked Jake yesterday in his press conference, is there something different offensively you guys did in 2023 that you're not doing now? The thing he said, he goes, most of it, running the ball in the screen game. Well, screen game doesn't really work if you can't sell some other stuff. And so I know everybody wants to point to Jake Browning and the tiresome, go out and get another quarterback. This is not a Jake Browning issue. This is an entire offense issue. Because I'll point out this. I love Joe Burrow. I think he's a terrific quarterback. I think I can always put the argument when he's playing that he's the best in the game. But let me just say this. That go back to the Cleveland game in the opener. How'd Joe Burrow's numbers look that game?
Not good, because they couldn't run the football. Yeah. He
wasn't playing very well even in that Jacksonville game. I mean, they'd scored 10 points when he had gotten hurt. Jake Browning scored 21 points in that game. So I think what the overarching theme for me then is this is just a bad offense that schematically isn't very good at the moment, that the offensive line is just horrifyingly bad at the moment. And I've talked about the tiresome, and I'm not going back on what I think is a tired narrative of the Bengals haven't invested in the offensive line. Yes, they have, folks, but unfortunately the investments aren't paying off. Who knew Orlando Brown was suddenly going to stink? I mean, I can't blame them for that. You drafted a guy in the first round last year who hasn't gotten any better. Can I blame coaching for that? Maybe, or maybe again, it's just a misevaluation of a guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Everyone said, hey, this guy hasn't played a lot. He's coming off a lot of injuries. Right. There's a lot of question marks to take this guy so high, and that's the guy they chose to take.
Yeah. And then there's also not a commitment to running the ball either. I think that's the part that they're going to have to get to, of let's just commit to running the damn football. And then we can do things that are Jake's strengths. Jake admitted, he had a couple of downfield throws that he said he looked back on tape and I missed those throws. I got to make better throws. And I'll agree with that. I mean, they were Andy Dalton throw the ball out of bounds throws. But I'll be honest, Rick, when I watched that line play and I dropped the field glasses and I looked downfield, I don't see much separation from guys at the moment. I don't see guys getting open at the moment. And you saw, I think, a Jake Browning, unfortunately, who last week the narrative was don't throw interceptions. I think he was so careful not to throw interceptions that I thought he played really tentative. I thought that he had some small windows he probably could have fit the ball into, chose not to. You remember he took 3 sacks. I think 2 of them were on him. I was like, he couldn't figure out, where do I want to go with this? And you can argue, Joe Burrow processes that faster and makes the play. And I can't disagree with that. I'm not putting Jake Browning in Joe Burrow's category. But Jake Browning is a capable quarterback. The unfortunate part is those around him aren't playing like capable players.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with you on that anymore. I mean, I was questioning Jake Browning coming into this. What he did in 2023 wasn't enough for me to be like, oh yeah, this guy can ball. He had a couple of nice performances with a team that was more stable around him and more sure of itself around him. He doesn't have that now. And, to your point about he can only be good if they can do play action, bootleg stuff and all that. Okay, that's fine. But if that's the case, then you probably need to get another quarterback in there because this team ain't going to be able to run the ball. So you're not going to be able to play that way, right? So don't you have to look at someone who can play that way?
Who is that guy?
No one that's going to make this team win at a big level or make the playoffs. That's why I was concerned when Joe Burrow went down. There are no more Joe Burrows that you can go get. But I do think, I mean, it's like you're going to lose this team completely. The receivers are already losing their minds with him. And I would disagree that guys weren't open at times. I think he was extremely tentative. There are only small windows in the NFL, Skinny. If a guy gets a step or two, you've got to let it rip when it's Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
And I think that's my big take. On the podcast I did with Mike Petraglia after the game, I said my big takeaway would be this: after I've watched the film of the last 2 weeks, of just tell the kid, let it rip. If you throw a pick, you throw a pick. It's okay. I mean, he threw 3 picks in the Jacksonville game, still led him to 21 points in a win. Okay, you know what? I'll take the trade-off. Chances are if you throw 3 picks a game, you're probably not winning many of those games, but I'm going to take the trade-off. Just let it rip. Let him rip. Just run the offense and tell him to let it rip. I mean, he is a capable quarterback, and I know that it's going to fall on deaf ears because of the last 2 performances. The last 2 performances were all entire offense-related, not just Jake Browning-related.
I do agree with you completely on that. There is no question. I mean, the offensive line, the play calling, at some points it seems like the receivers are quitting on him. You see Jamar going over the sideline, bitching and moaning with Zac Taylor. And then the rest of the game, it's kind of like, all right, are these guys still running as sharp of routes as they were 2 weeks ago? I don't know at this point. So I think there's a little bit of everything going on with this offense, but Jake Browning is a major part of their problems. I mean, he is a significant drop off. And the second half of that game was literally just take a snap, start running for your life, go to the sideline, and then throw the ball out of bounds if you don't take a sack. I mean, it was just so boring to watch. I couldn't even believe it.
It was awful. I'll say this too. I don't even know if they win these last 2 games with Joe Burrow. I really don't, because of how poor the defense plays.
I think it's in question for sure. I would agree with you there. We all knew Zac Taylor was going to hear from the fans after Burrow went down, Skinny. How much of this is deserved in your opinion, especially after this past week's game where you have all the penalties, the team just looks completely disorganized and incapable. And okay, everyone expected them to lose some games when Joe Burrow went down, but these last 2 weeks, you didn't even have a chance. You weren't even remotely competitive.
Yeah. Listen, the one thing in the Zac Taylor era, this team doesn't commit a lot of penalties. It doesn't commit a lot of pre-snap penalties. And a chunk of the penalties, one's on a second-year right tackle who literally you just have to line up on the line of scrimmage correctly. Is that Zac Taylor's fault that he didn't, or is that a kid not paying attention? Dylan Fairchild gets caught for a couple of pre-snap penalties. He's a rookie. I think some of that is just youth and the road. I don't think it's a coaching thing. Again, this is over there's a lot of things you can argue about Zac Taylor about. You can dislike his play calling, all that stuff. But his teams are usually, they don't commit a lot of penalties. They don't turn the ball over a ton. It's been a rash of it both the last 2 weeks for sure. But I don't think all of a sudden he started not coaching guys to fumble or, have an offensive lineman do a lot of pre-snap stuff that they normally don't do. I think it's just, again, I go back to, like, how hard is it for Amarius Mims to understand he has to line up on the line of scrimmage? And they have made that a point of emphasis the last 2 years of, you need to be on the line of scrimmage, guys. We're going to flag you for it. And he couldn't even line up correctly. That's on him.
I guess. I mean, I guess. How much do you think?
Not on him. If you're taught where to line up,
because discipline and that falls on the head coach at some point. If you have the same guys time after time, you have to fix it.
How does it not? Again, it doesn't happen time after time. I just said they don't commit a lot of penalties. They don't. They committed them in this game, yes. And again, one of them was a rookie committing 2 of them, and a second-year tackle who apparently. How does that not fall on him not to know where to line up correctly?
I mean, I'm with you to a certain extent, but I think just completely absolving Zac Taylor of everything is insane.
No, I'm not.
They look like a disaster.
They needed to be better schematically the last 2 weeks. They needed to not be so conservative, in my opinion. I think the 2 game plans were extraordinarily conservative. Like, we're going to play not to beat ourselves and not to lose, as opposed to just going to say to hell with it. I know we're on the road, but let's go play this thing and let it rip. I don't think they did that. I think they played very, very tentative with the game plan, with the play calling, and it led to 2 disasters. I hope they learned their lesson of not to do that. Let's see what it looks like moving forward. It probably isn't going to look very good because overall the personnel stinks.
You don't think Zac Taylor should be in any hot water? Obviously,
sure he should. No, okay, there's no question he should, Rick. I'll blame him for the game plans. I'm not going to blame him for the pre-snap penalties. I'm just not. I mean, that's on them because they don't commit them very often.
Fair enough. Okay, the pre-snap penalties aside, there are still plenty of issues I think Zac Taylor is responsible for.
I would agree, but we started this on the penalty talk, and I can't really blame him for something that they normally don't do. I can blame him for a lot of other things. I can blame him for the 2 game plans the last 2 weeks. No question. I thought they were way too conservative, and it led to a quarterback who looked lost because of that.
Yeah, I don't think it's as much that the penalties are the only thing. I think it's the fact that the overall picture, when you add the penalties in, the whole picture for the last 2 weeks, everything that went into those games, it looks like a completely disorganized team with no direction and no leader because the real coach, Joe Burrow, is out now. And I think that's how everyone feels.
Yeah, and there looked like discombobulation on defense, and I thought Al Golden gave a good explanation for this. I don't know how they don't know this, but he said that they're trying to get a clarification from the NFL about the substitution rules. The Broncos are a team, they really do sub personnel groups a lot. Like you'll see them take out a fullback and a running back and put in 3 wide receivers at the last second, and then you're trying to match that. And I thought there was the rule that you had to be allowed to match that without having to rush guys onto the field, and it was discombobulated. I mean, there's a lot of times they couldn't get the defense lined up. I mean, that last touchdown, you probably weren't even watching at that point. I can't blame you. The little pass out in the flat to RJ Harvey. I mean, they literally couldn't get lined up, and then there was a coverage bust. There was literally nobody around him because nobody knew where the hell they were going. I'll give Al credit for at least explaining it. I don't think it was an excuse, but I would hope you would know that, hey, we're either going to sub in the time we're allowed to sub, or we're just going to have to stay in some kind of base stuff and live with it and not try to match personnel groups.
What are they doing over there? Counting on their fingers, trying to add to 11? I don't understand why that's a hard thing. Every team in the NFL can figure that out. Why the Bengals have to get clarification on it?
I don't know. Insane. I mean, again, I thought you were allowed to match without having to rush too. I thought that was part of the rule. Like if they send their personnel group in and they sub, you have ample time to sub as well, as opposed to having to rush dudes on the field. It did look discombobulated. There's no question about it.
All right, here's what I wanted to get to, though. Regardless of where you're at personally on Zac Taylor, obviously it's going to be a nonstop conversation the rest of the season with this city. How much do you think the front office for the Bengals is going to be willing to have that conversation this year? And I'm not talking about publicly, obviously. They're not going to make any statements or anything. They're not going to fire Zac Taylor, I don't think, during the season. But do you think internally they are having actual discussions about what's our next move at head coach?
Sure, Duke Tobin probably is going to save his ass. I mean, he's the one. Honestly, he's the one that should be in the hot water here, in my opinion, the most. He should be the first one to go, in my opinion. They have mismanaged this thing completely, and that falls on the personnel guy. I'm sorry, it just does. I don't have a personal vendetta against Duke Tobin, but that's where it starts for me. Then we can talk about the head coach. But yeah, I there's no question, Rick. I mean, if let's go to the nuclear. Let's say they finish 4-13. I can't blame all of that on Joe Burrow's toe. I can't blame all of it on coaching, but someone has to pay the price for that, right? It's going to be Zac Taylor. It has to be at that point. I mean, probably in part to save your own skin if you're Duke Tobin. But it should start with, honestly, if they would go for it, would be, in my opinion, if I was running the organization, I'd clean house of everyone. Everybody would go at that point.
That's interesting to me because I was thinking you would say it's the Bengals, it's Mike Brown. They're not even remotely close to firing Zac Taylor, especially if Joe Burrow going down. So that surprises me a little bit that you think it's a legitimate possibility.
I do. I mean, I think you got the fan base back, right? You wooed them back. There's a part of me that thinks even with a healthy Joe Burrow, and we don't know, again, where that health for Joe Burrow is going to stand, when it will come, how it will come. I mean, Brock Purdy, I don't think he's playing with turf toe, but he tried to come back with the toe injury, re-injured it, can't play right now. And so those things are real. But you won the fan. But if you cash out this season, and let's just say, again, nuclear option 4-13-ish, something like that, something ugly, right? I truly think that you would have a chunk of the fan base that goes, I ain't back in until you guys make some moves. I really believe that.
Skinny, not to get too dark, but within the last week, it has felt to me something like, oh, it's all gone. Like,
yeah,
with the Reds, yes. If you're a Cincinnati sports fan, you never really feel optimism and hope like you're actually moving towards something and going to achieve something. Ever since that 2021 season with the Bengals, it has felt like they're in that position. They've got Joe Burrow. They actually made the run with him. It's like, okay, there are going to be more opportunities. This is open for them right now. They're a legitimate competitive organization in the NFL. I haven't felt that way about the Reds, but with the Bengals, I did. With Joe Burrow going down, seeing the last few weeks, I mean, there's a real possibility that Joe Burrow never returns to being Joe Burrow like we've seen the last few years. There's a possibility that the injuries start mounting for him. There's a possibility that they just can't ever get a good team around him. I mean, do you sense that at all, that this could be just kind of the end of all of it for the Bengals in terms of that run or window that they had?
To the point where you have to kind of restart. And listen, even after the Super Bowl team, right? They went out and they signed a capable guard in Alex Kappa. They signed a capable center in Ted Karras. They went very un-Bengals-like and signed a Pro Bowl left tackle in Orlando Brown to a good piece of change. Well, Kappa got hurt and is out of here now. Karras is just middling at best to me. I mean, he's just And Orlando Brown suddenly stinks.
Is Fairchild their best offensive lineman?
I think Jalen Rivers might be, to be honest with you.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, that's the part to me is it just that's why it feels like it's falling apart. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to see the same Orlando Brown. I know I'm not going to see the same Ted Karras. I don't know what I've got in the two rookie guards at the moment. Maurice Mims hasn't made the progress I thought he'd make and should make. There's your starting offensive line, man. It almost feels like you got to retool across the board there. But yet you spent all this money on the wide receivers and the quarterback and a defensive end. Hell, if you let Trey Hendrickson go, that conversation will come about around the trade deadline. Guess what you have to do? As much as that's the right move, if the team is disintegrating at the trade deadline, you're going to have to go pay for a defensive end next season.
Yeah,
you can't pay for all of it. At some point, you got to hit on the draft. I mean, Rick, they got 2 third-round draft picks from last year's draft who haven't been active for a single freaking game this year.
That's pathetic.
It's awful.
And their guy from this year's hurt.
I mean, Cam Taylor-Britt stinks at the moment. I know he's dealing with a leg injury, but he got benched the other night. I know some of it.
What did he play? 5 snaps?
5 snaps.
Wow. I mean, it's a dark time to be a Cincinnati sports fan. This last week was tough, and the whole Bengals thing, it just feels like everyone realized it at the same moment that, oh no.
Yep.
The hope, the window, the championship dreams, all of that, we're right back to ground zero, where it just feels like neither of these two organizations are ever going to put themselves in a real position to contend.
And boy, was that locker room a graveyard yesterday. Now, they had a night walkthrough, late afternoon walkthrough, and coming off the walkthrough, those are, guys aren't usually sitting in their locker out of gas and taking their time and all that stuff where you can catch up with them. I mean, they were dressing out of there because we had the Jake Browning press conference coming right off the field. I mix and match that. Sometimes I'll go to Jake's press conference. If I need to talk to a player desperately, I go talk to the player during that time so I don't get swarmed. And we all kind of share the press conference quotes, and I can transcribe from that. Neither here nor there, just giving you some inside baseball stuff. But I chose to go to Jake yesterday. And by the time you go in the locker room, I mean, it was a freaking ghost town. I think you can see players have kind of checked out. I know Jake said that they did have a players-only meeting, it sounds like. Captains kind of led it. Orlando told us after the game on Monday that's what he, as a captain, he was going to try to lead that. And kind of the message, he said, I'm going to share all of it, but it was pretty much, we all need to just do a little bit more. That seems to be the theme. If we need to work harder, we need to do a little bit more. I'm not buying it. You're just not good enough. By the way, can I take a quote to task if fans blew up on this? The Jamar Chase quote after the game of "they wanted it more than us." What does that even freaking mean?
Oh, it's the dumbest thing. It's like we weren't ready.
Yeah,
they weren't ready to play today. It's like, who cares? That makes no sense.
No, you weren't good enough. You're not good enough. Your team's not good enough, and you didn't execute. That's all. When I went on this team needs to play with more fire, and they came out flat. No, they didn't come out flat. They just didn't execute.
Yeah, they just suck. Actually, that's what their issue is.
Again, that's literally the last 2 sentences of my column were, to quote Taylor's predecessor, Marvin Lewis, "I see better than I hear." It was coming off of a Zac quote of "I believe in the guys in the locker room, and we're just facing adversity, blah, blah, blah." I said, I see better than I hear, and what I see right now is a bad football team.
Yeah, terrible all the way around. That's the issue. There's no strength that they can lean into and be like, all right, let's get back to this and do that. This can save this season. This can save this team. They have nothing to rely on right now.
That's the part. I mean, like, if you could say, okay, lean on the running game more. And I do think they need to, but they don't commit to it. But even that has been a disaster for the most part this season.
Yeah. Or if you could stop the run, or if you could, whatever. Right. If you had something where you were like, all right, turn this up a notch, play to this more, slow the game down if you have to, and run some clock when you have the ball to let your defense try to keep you in it. Whatever it is, if you had something to rely on that you could craft a game plan around, it would give, I mean, not real optimism, but some reason to keep this season fun. They have nothing that they can hang their hat on. They have 2 really talented wide receivers that you can't get the ball to.
Right. No, that's right. And honestly, I mean, Trey Hendrickson got stoned the other night by Garrett Bowles. Garrett Bowles absolutely owned him.
He's a nothing. He's a nut. That's the reason he was never going to get paid like Michael Parsons. And he's just a guy that puts up big stats in meaningless moments.
For the most part.
All right. I know we're going forever. This is going to be a long podcast, but as an aside, really quick, can we please talk? I want to have this conversation now because it didn't have any impact on the game. I'm not a Bengals fan being like, oh, that cost us the game. How could you watch that game, watch those officials, and not think something was goofy on with someone doing so? Like, there had to be some type of investment on that game with the refs being tied to it.
So I think that was that referee's like fourth NFL game. I think he's a first-time referee. Now he didn't throw all the flags. You know, it's his crew, and some of the flags were legit. But like the Ted Karras head bob,
the false start call was insane, and the fair catch interference call.
It was the right call though.
I know it. How the guy fumbled the ball to him.
No, the rule is you should have seen my tweet. I tweeted this out.
I saw it. That rule still is not how they call it.
Yes, they do.
I've seen that exact place, and you can't fumble the ball to a guy. He handed him the ball.
You got to let him catch it. You got to let him finish the catch, and he
handed it to him.
I mean, I'll give even Zach admitted it was a right call.
I disagree completely.
Yeah, the only call I think I would disagree with a ton was the Ted Karras head bob. I mean, how many centers don't occasionally head bob?
Yeah, the false start call is insane. There's nothing there.
No, there was literally, it got to a point where I think everybody in the media, how the press box is a sacred, blah, blah, blah. I think everybody at one point on like the 20th flag was thrown, we're like, come on. Like it was a lot on both ways. It's like, how many are we going to throw tonight, fellas?
Yeah, they were a disaster. Troy Aikman was crushing them, which was hilarious. Rightfully so.
He was right. Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears here to the Reds. This is going to be a long podcast. We'll try to get through it though. The Reds were eliminated in 2 games by the Dodgers, 10-5 and 8-4. Before we talk about the future and everything for the Reds, let's take a minute to talk about the actual series. I mean, night 1 was a no contest situation, completely boring, nothing game. Night 2, that bases loaded situation, Skinny, in the top of the 6th, where the Reds didn't get a single run in a 3-2 game with the heart of their order up. That was, I mean, you already knew they weren't going to win the series, but that moment was just like, okay, that's who this team is.
That's what this team is. You're right. That's exactly the situational hitting, the taking advantage of opportunities. It goes back to that Friday night Mets game, right? Where you're 5-4, bases loaded, 2-3-4 in your order coming up. You're at least going to tie it. If not, unfortunately, what this team is. You were hoping that maybe because Sal Stewart came through earlier in the night that he'd come through again, and he just didn't. But yeah, that was the season in a nutshell right there to me.
Yeah, and then you follow up in the bottom half of the inning where the Dodgers get a single on a grounder that hit third base, and then the Reds have a throwing error to give that. I mean, it was tough to watch. Like I said, a tough week. Do you think it's possible Elly De La Cruz will ever get a clutch hit in his career?
That's a great question, man. He and Hunter Green in the big moment didn't exactly step up. I mean, sorry to say that. I love Hunter Green. I do think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. But what makes you among the best of the best is in the big moments, like Tarek Skubal in game 1 for Detroit, goes in and strikes out 14. You go in and you dominate. And it felt like after he gave up that homer to Shohei Ohtani was like, yep, I'm just going to try to rear back and throw it by everybody. You're not, hey, he did hit my fastball. None of the rest of you are. And then he lost his feel. The splitter was awful. That ball he hung to Teoscar Hernandez for the 3-run homer was just was a cement mixer. He wasn't sharp. And I'm disappointed in that because if you want to be in that superstar category, those are the moments you capitalize on. Those are the moments you go out and show this is why I'm one of the best, and you didn't. You weren't up to the moment.
Fair or not, those are the games that define your career as an ace pitcher. And I know you have to win those big moment games. And I'm not saying like you can be great the rest of the regular season, and your career should be boiled down to one performance where you weren't as sharp. But the problem for Hunter Green is, who knows how many more of these chances he's going to get? You don't get them every year with the Reds. So that's tough.
Listen, no matter how you say, Clayton Kershaw is going to be a Hall of Famer. We all agree with that. The numbers back it up. The performance backs it up. But part of the narrative of Clayton Kershaw is really didn't get it done in the postseason. And that's, again, I still think he's a definitive Hall of Famer, but that narrative will carry with Clayton Kershaw. Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, but man, he never really got it done in the postseason.
And you don't think that drives him crazy?
Sure.
And that's his that's what his legacy is. That's what anyone says about Clayton Kershaw. If you bring up Clayton Kershaw as a pitcher, they're gonna be like, I just couldn't win the big one, basically, is like the whole thing. And we, as sports fans, we boil it down to those one-liners. And for Hunter Green, I mean, he can be as great as he wants to be, but those are the types of games you have to win. You have to pitch well. And like you said, he just didn't rise to the occasion, just like Ellie.
I just don't understand how he got shook by the home run. I mean, it's not like Shohei Ohtani hasn't hit home runs this year. He's only hit 55 of them, for goodness sakes. Okay, he hit your best out of the ballpark. That's okay. Now, get yourself back together, get your game plan back in order, and pitch it like you're capable and keep it where it's at. And he didn't. I thought he lost his mind, to be honest with you.
The only, I don't know if you want to call it shining moment from the two postseason games for the Reds, in my opinion, was the Sal Stewart two RBI hit in last night's game. Punched it through the right side. It wasn't a big hit or anything, but it was a timely hit, a big moment. And you just like, young guy playing in his first postseason, and he just seems super confident. He just seems like he's up there, knows what's to do. That'll be my takeaway from this postseason. There's not much positive, but that's the one thing I'm excited about is Sal Stewart.
Yeah, I just want to know where you're going to play him.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, that's another issue they have. Well, let's set this up going forward. Do you have any confidence that their unlikely playoff berth is cause for optimism going forward, or is this a one-off scenario caused by the Mets rolling over and dying?
No, the Mets rolling over and dying sure helped. There's no question about that. I mean, that's part of this. That's really the only reason this occurred is the Mets rolling over and dying. But no, if you had told me before the year 83 and 79, I said, okay, it's a nice first step forward under Terry Francona. And you did it with Matt McClain not having what I still think can be Matt McClain good years. You did it with trying to finally figure out where to play Noel V. Marte. You did it with Brian Hayes being an offensive liability. You did it with, Nick Lodolo being on and off the roster because of injuries and things. And that probably is maybe the narrative of him moving forward, unfortunately. So you did it with some things. I mean, with Ellie hitting that crazy slump of not hitting home runs. So I do think the positives are some guys having bounce backs and some guys taking the next step forward. I think all those are in play, and a young guy like Sal Stewart in the pipeline ready to play at the big league level.
Yeah, I just think the problem is the Reds seem to always want to rely on, this guy's going to be better next year, and this guy will bounce back and have a better year than he had this year. And it's like, no. Your roster hasn't been good enough for the last few years. It's not good enough. You have to go get a difference maker.
There's no question.
I mean, if they're not going to do that, they're probably not going to be a contender next year either. They might be 2 or 3 more games better on their overall record and actually make the postseason. But to me, this just like, you get no credit for doing what you did this year. You were a 500 team in the second half. Like you were not, it's not like you played great baseball. It's not like you punched your way through. Yeah, you won a few games at the end. Yes, you won that last series, but the Mets just handed you that spot because they were completely dead at the end. So you should get no credit for making the postseason if you're the Reds here. And unfortunately, I'm a little afraid that the organization feels good about themselves. The fan base was so desperate for any success that they wanted to pat them on the back and tell them how great that was. And I don't know that they feel like they need to go make a big move right now.
Rick, whatever money you need to spend in the offseason needs to be spent on one budding star player that can add a bat in the middle of the lineup. I don't think you need to do anything from a pitching perspective. I think you saw Connor Phillips emerge as a bullpen arm. Maybe that's the best spot for Chase Burns at the moment is in the bullpen. Santillan had a great year. Pagan had a great year. Nick Martinez comes off the books too. Let's not forget that. So there's $21 million that you're getting back in the account to use to spend on somebody. Again, this is hope, but it feels like you get a chance to get Rhett Lauder back and put him in the rotation, and you don't really have to do a whole lot from a pitching perspective. Add a bullpen arm or two perhaps, but that shouldn't cost you a lot of money. Whatever all eggs you have, you pile it into the most you can spend for a single player that's going to make a difference in the middle of your lineup. I don't know who that is, where that comes from, but that should be the objective.
I could not agree more with you there. I actually feel like they are closer than you'd think or closer than it looks like, but they need a difference maker, not like 2 or 3 guys that you already have, type of guys that you already have that can play multiple spots and hit you 255, 260. You need a legitimate threat, a guy who scares the opposing team when he's in your lineup.
No doubt. Absolutely.
One last thought on this. I meant to ask you, did you question Tito at all in terms of starting Zach Littell night 2? Did you want to?
No.
The only issue you have is that Graham Ashcraft doesn't get to take the mound at all. I know he would have been on short rest, but going into the postseason without letting Graham Ashcraft touch the ball seems tough.
Yeah, I thought I thought they had last night set up for that bullpen type game, and I thought he gave you enough. I mean, he was never going to give you 15 outs. I mean, I think you were hoping to get through the lineup one time with him, maybe twice, and then you were going to dip into the bullpen. I guess the thing I would question a little bit is Lodolo not going a little bit longer.
I'm trying to think, when did they take Lodolo out now?
Oh, I'd have to go back and look at the box.
Nah, never mind. Doesn't matter.
In the 5th, maybe. Let me look. We can do this. Yeah, he pitched through the end of the 5th. He only gave up one hit. That was it. He only gave up one base runner in an inning and 2/3.
Yeah, I don't remember questioning that when it happened, but
well, because Nick Martinez in the role he's been in at the moment has been pretty reliable. So you're probably thinking, okay, that's fine. It was probably maybe it's just the matchup thing at the time because righties are coming up. But Nick Lodolo was a starter, so he faces lefties and righties all the time, right? I mean, he's not a loogie for goodness sakes. And maybe that's all he could go. And that's a possibility too. If he pitched on Sunday in relief, he doesn't pitch in relief much, but I don't know, man. I would have liked to have seen him out there longer. The one thing I do question about Tito was Monday night. I know they probably weren't going to come back all the way back, but not pinch hitting Sal Stewart for Key Brian Hayes in the spot that he was in with the bases loaded. I mean, that's just asinine. And here's the thing. Sense. The Key Brian Hayes trade, I mean, I know they thought, okay, we can do some things to help him at the plate. And for a little while there, I was like, okay, maybe they found something. He's never going to be more than a 260 hitter, but a 260 Key Brian Hayes is fine. He's terrible. He's an absolute liability at the plate. And I get defense, I do. But anymore, Rick, I mean, these playoffs, the teams I think are averaging 23 strikeouts per game, both teams combined. And the Reds are a strikeout pitching team. So you're getting probably in each game out of 27 outs, at least a third of them via the strikeout, a chunk more or via routine plays. I mean, how many great plays are required? And you know what you can also do if you have a lead in the 7th inning? You can put a Key Brian Hayes in then. That's fine.
Yeah, I heard Lance last night talking about the Reds lineup, why they're choosing to do certain things like play McLean and Brian Hayes and those guys together. And he's like, because this isn't beer league softball. And I thought about it for a second. It's like, actually, it kind of has become that. It's mostly home runs, strikeouts, and walks. So, I mean, I guess the walks part and strikeouts aren't so much beer league softball, but like in terms of offense, your defense isn't that important. I mean, you want a good defense, but like I'd much rather trade off offense in today's era than defense.
But listen, I thought this bullpen was set up to do something in this series that obviously didn't happen. It didn't work, but I thought it was set up. So to me, it would be go get your lead. Then you want to go defense at that point. Hell, if you want to go, let's say you got a 3-1 lead in the 6th. If you want to go defense at that point, if the Key Brian Hayes spot, the lineup doesn't come up until the 8th and you're going to want it back from him, that's fine. And then you've got this strong bullpen just to close the door. I think you see that. I'm so interested tonight in the Padres-Cubs game. The Padres bullpen is just ridiculous. And if they ever get a lead on you, you're done, man. You are like done.
Great news for me is it became college basketball season very early last night. So I will not watch another second of baseball.
I like playoff baseball. I like playoff anything. I really do. I got to be honest with you. I flew back from Denver on Tuesday. And so I'm in the Denver airport probably 2 hours before my flight. And I got a chance to watch a good chunk of that, the Detroit-Cleveland game there. Then I watched the rest of that on my seat, the thing on my seat back. That then turned into I turned on the end of the Cubs-Padres game. Then I get to the Minneapolis airport. I watch a good chunk of the Yankees game. I literally sit in my seat in the airplane right as the Reds start. It was a good baseball watching day. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I probably lied there. I probably will watch a little bit of the Yankees Red Sox stuff just because I find that interesting.
It's so good. It is. I know everybody hates it, right? Hate both though, but it's so much fun to watch. The intensity of that.
Yeah, how can you not enjoy that?
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah, the classic rivalries still bang.
Yeah, I agree. No question.
All right, let's go through college football quickly here because we've been going on for almost 40-ish minutes. Cincinnati, huge win against Kansas, 37-34 at Kansas. Scott Satterfield and the Bearcats. We've talked about their tough road they have coming up here, Skinny. That was a big one for them to get. Otherwise, the narrative on this season could have turned early on them. I thought Brendan Sorsby was really good in this game. 29-43, 388 passing yards, 2 touchdowns.
And led the clutch drive at the end. I mean, remember that Nebraska game? It felt like the narrative was, the wide receivers can't get open. That's why you were talking about, Brendan Sorsby was going to run for a lot of yards because he's going to have to. And he did.
He still did that.
Yeah, no, he did. He had a couple of really big scrambles in this game, but the passing game was really clicking. Kansas's defense is suspect. I mean, they gave up 42 to Missouri, but still, that's a great win. I don't want to discount that win whatsoever. I know people think I'm anti-UC all the time. I think I'm realistic a lot of times, and that hurts. But no, I thought that was a great win for them to get. Now seize the momentum and beat Iowa State at home, and then you got something going.
Yeah, the incredible thing about the passing game is they did that without Joe Royer.
Right. Yeah,
Joe Warrior went out in that game, and to me, I thought he was really their only weapon in the passing game for the first couple of weeks, and then they still lit it up. Now, again, I agree with you on Kansas's defense. That was probably helping it, but I mean, Royer's going to be good to go for Iowa State. You got these guys playing with a little confidence now alongside him. Maybe you're working with something on offense.
And I got to be frank, that drive for Sorsby might have saved the season, to be honest with you. I mean, if you lose that game the way you would have lost it, giving up a touchdown with a little over a minute to go, and you're back and forth all day, and you were on the short end of the back, you know that's going to seep into this week. And then this week goes sideways against a really good Iowa State team. Then that's going to seep into the other weeks because it's happened before. That, to me, was like a season-saving drive.
It felt that way. It felt like a huge moment. And because honestly, Skinny, if they lose that game, like you talked about, in the fashion they were about to lose it, what does it immediately become? Oh, Bearcat, Satterfield can't fall apart. All the different things we've heard for the last year. I mean, it was just going to be right back to that stuff, and you were going to hear it the rest of the season at that point. So big win. Are you surprised at all? We'll talk about the betting here in a minute, but are you surprised at all that Cincinnati is actually a 1.5 point favorite at home this week against Iowa State?
Yeah, a little bit, because Iowa State's really good. I mean, that's probably a toss-up game, so maybe that's where it lands. But let me flip the script for a second because of that drive. What I'm saying, see, now you got a chance to make some hay. 2 home games in a row against 2 good teams, Iowa State and UCF. Then on the road at god-awful Oklahoma State. Then you're back home for Baylor, and Baylor's been middling. I mean, you got a chance to have a really good season shaping up here.
Yeah, I mean,
but you got to do it. I mean, we can talk about you got to go do.
These next 2 games are obviously big, but they weren't going to be as big if you lose the Kansas game. It's kind of like, well, all right, you're just kind of fighting to stay alive now. But like you said, now you're fighting for a really nice season here. Ohio State beat up Washington 24-6. That defense is just disgusting, Skinny. I mean, it's so good.
I'm not sure I would have done the fake field goal early in the game like they did. I would have taken the points because you already took the points on the other field goal. But that had a chance to be like a 10-0 Washington lead, maybe even 14-0 Washington lead. And the defense said, nah, well, you're not. And then after that point, you're done. You're just done.
It's like on that drive, like you said, they immediately, you hear the old term, proverbial shut the water off on them. I mean, it was really like that. It's like, okay, you guys have had enough fun. Game over. You're not gaining any more yards. Like stopped them on that drive and then held them the rest of the game.
Rick, they've given up, 2 touchdowns all year?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's a legit team with a really good play caller by all accounts. Everyone thinks they run great stuff and are good offensively. That there was legitimate reason, I think, to question Matt Patricia as a hire and how it all was going to work out in his first year. But
he's doing great.
He's the biggest storyline at Ohio State right now. He looks unbelievable. I see these national people talking about how confusing he's making it for opposing defenses, how he's running a little bit more like NFL stuff and changing things up a lot more snap to snap. And it's apparently causing a lot of problems for these opposing teams. So I couldn't be more impressed by their defense right now. I am starting to wonder at some point, like, is the offense going to turn it on? Are they just playing this way because the defense is so good, or is the offense lacking a little bit at all?
There's a part of me though that you probably played a little more conservative because you don't need your quarterback to lose the game. And, maybe there's going to come a game where Julian Sain's going to have to win it and he's going to be more than capable of winning that game for you. But I think for them at the moment, it's like, let's just make sure we're throwing to move the sticks. They haven't thrown downfield a ton. I still think they're very capable of downfield passing game because you got a dude on top of dudes outside wide, and he still made a couple of hell of plays in that game. I just don't think they've cut this completely loose because they don't have to. At some point you will, and maybe it's this week at home against Minnesota.
Well, and you think about the situations you're in too, like that first Texas game, massive moment, massive atmosphere. You're not going to cut your redshirt freshman quarterback loose in that one. And then this one's like a true road test at Washington. So I kind of get why, and then there's other games, obviously, you're going to win. I kind of get why we haven't seen him be fully unleashed, but that's the question, right? Skinny, like if it comes down to that, against Oregon or something, is he going to be able to live up to that moment and lead you on a late drive or what have you?
Dude has completed 78 of 99 passes. Now he's thrown 3 picks, but 78 of 99 passes.
He's looked good.
Yeah, I think he has too. Yeah. I think for them, it's like, we don't need to unleash everything at the moment. We've got this because our defense is going to do enough. We can run the ball just enough. Yeah, he's going to have to make some throws, and he's made them when he's had to for the most part.
Yeah. Then South Carolina beat up Kentucky 35-13. It was 28-10 at half. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't really see anything after that because there was so much good stuff going on. Saturday was incredible for college football. And I think there were other sports going on at the time. I don't even remember, the Reds playing or something in the middle of the day.
Yeah, playing Milwaukee. Yeah,
that's right. So there was a lot of good stuff going on Saturday. But what did you take away from this shellacking?
I mean, they did a lot of things to win the game, but when you turn the ball over, get back-to-back defensive touchdowns on back-to-back turnovers, you're dead. You're just dead. And that, I mean, I had to go to a party, a baby shower party, and came back, was listening to the game in the car. Things were clicking. They're up. They're on top. I'm like, okay, just keep the defense sounds like it's playing really well. You're in a good spot. I literally got home because I had to go to my daughter's that night to pick up her dog and my dog. And they were staying with me. Everybody's out of town. And so by the time I got the dogs in from my car, when Kentucky was up 10-7, I turned the TV on. It's 21-10. And I had to look at my phone and go, what the hell just happened here? And 2 defensive touchdowns.
Yep.
And trust me, their quarterback play is so bad that when they're down 21-10, it's like, it's over. It's over.
That's what I said. At halftime, I was like, all right, we're good here.
Yeah, no. So ESPN did a ranking of the
I was just going to ask you about that. Yeah.
And they ranked Kentucky's dead last, the combination of Calzada and Cutter Boley, and they're not wrong.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you there, but 68th out of 68 possible Power 4 quarterback situations is what they were ranking. So not just the starting quarterback, but I think like the entire quarterback position, right? Yes, what they were doing?
Yep.
And they gave UK dead last out of the Power 4 conferences.
They ain't wrong.
That kind of says it all right there, Skinny.
Yep. Oh, but it's okay. They got a break on the schedule this week. They get to play something called Georgia. They'll be okay. They'll be fine.
They'll be fine. What was it? If you guys want to contend with Georgia, you got to start spending more NIL money. You got to start reaching your pocketbooks or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. Well, nationally, if you're a Penn State fan, how could you ever believe in anything ever again?
You can't. That was literally what I talked about last week. I mean, you can't trust the guy in a big game, right or wrong. He's a terrific coach. He's done great things at 2 places, at Vandy and Penn State.
And they're right there.
To a big game, they just don't win.
They were right there, Skinny. They could have won this game. They could have. But they just never do.
Right. They throw an interception in overtime. I mean, really all you have to do is go score and get the 2, and it's a win. You got the ball in there 25 in overtime at home, and you throw a pick.
Like, I'll admit, I kept thinking like, they're going to do this. Like, they're playing well. They're going to do this. He's making the plays. And then that happens. It's like, man, they just can never pull it off.
I had Oregon money line to close out a parlay. And when they scored,
what a sweat.
Well, yeah, when they scored and missed the 2, I'm like, daggone it, this is how I'm going to lose this thing because of this. And I mean, I was literally watching it, and all of a sudden, like, he intercepted that. Yeah.
Just unbelievable. Yeah.
And the only reason I put him in there, literally, because it was one of those ones where you're like, man,
I need another leg.
Yeah, this is going to be a tight game. And I did. I'm like, I won a little bit earlier in the day. I'm like, I'm just going to throw a leg on there for this, just so I literally can have a rooting interest in one of the night games. And I didn't really believe in it. But then in my mind, I'm like, he just doesn't win these games. I feel good about that. Yeah.
And then it happened again. I almost feel bad for him and them at this point. Because
he seems like a conceited SOB to me.
I agree. And there was plenty of years where I laughed at
he did the whole thing of the I need to see your wife when he hired assistant coaches to see what kind of a salesman you are. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm not saying I like the guy, and it's easy to root against him. It has been easy to root against him, but this narrative has gone on so long, and it's so legitimate. It's no longer like he's being unfairly criticized. It's like, no, you literally just cannot win any big games. It's hard to, at this point. I almost feel bad for him. Like, it is that to that point. Also, huge win for Bama and Kalen DeBoer. Like, they're just not Bama anymore the way they were, but they're still really good. They're still a threat.
Well, and that's a win. You know, if you want to be in the playoff picture,
you're back in the mix.
Yeah, you're back in the mix now. Exactly.
Yeah, huge win. So that was what stuck out to me. Anything else that you noticed this week, or should we move on to Pick'em?
No, let's go to Pick'em.
All right. Tough week for you in the Pick'em. 1-7.
Yeah.
That's what I had. I was 5-3. So that brings us to you're 13-15 overall. I'm 15-13 now. A little flip-flop there in the lead. Iowa lost to Indiana 15-10, but covered the 7.5. So your best bet won. And Bo Jackson ran for 80 yards for Ohio State, easily covering us 41.5. So I am, I think, 5-0 now in best bets. Saturday at noon, we have Iowa State at Cincinnati. The Bearcats are a 1.5 point favorite, and the total is 55.5.
I think this is going to be a shootout. I think Iowa State's the better team. I'm honestly rooting for UC. I really am, because I if they have a chance, like I said, to get some momentum going here. But I just think Iowa State's the better team. UC's defense all of a sudden looks a little suspect. I'm going to go Iowa State 33, UC 30 in a shootout.
So that is Iowa State and the over. And I'm right there with you. Everything you just said is perfect analysis, in my opinion, and my score is very similar. I like Iowa State 31, Cincinnati 27. So Iowa State in the over for me as well. Saturday at noon, we've got Kentucky at Georgia. The Bulldogs are a 20.5 point favorite. The total is 48.5.
You probably get angry, Georgia. I guess you could feel sorry for yourself, Georgia, right? And go in there and hang around for a while. And maybe they do, because I do think Kentucky is better on defense than they were last year. Again, don't look at that point total from South Carolina. That wasn't defense related. That was 2 defensive scores, really.
Right.
I just don't see them doing anything on offense, enough on offense to generate enough points. I mean, I think Georgia's going to score somewhere in the 27, 28 point range. I'll go Georgia 30-7. That's what it feels like.
Wow. 30-7. So that's Georgia and the under. And we're in sync here still. I've got Georgia 35, Kentucky 10. And I mean, you're getting pissed off Georgia is what you're getting. And Kentucky stands no chance.
I think you are too.
And Kentucky's on the road too. So that doesn't help either. Minnesota at Ohio State is at Saturday at 7:30. We've got Ohio State as a 23.5 point favorite. The total is 44.5.
Go Ohio State 34-6. They only give up 2 field goals again.
Unfortunately, we're simpatico on these. You actually took the under there, though. So that is our one separation right now. I got Ohio State 35, Minnesota 10. So Ohio State in the over for me by a 0.5 point. And that brings us to Sunday at 1. We've got the Lions at the Bengals. Lions are a 10.5 point favorite. The total is 48.5.
That is a crazy spread. I know how bad the Bengals are playing.
It's a big spread in the NFL.
It's a big spread. I think they cover the number. I can't come close to picking them to win. I'll go Lions 30, Bengals 22.
22 points for the Bengals. I think any Bengals fan would sign up for that right now if you would be willing to give it to them before the game started. All right, so you got the Bengals and the over there.
Correct.
This is going to be complete opposite. I like Lions 35, Bengals 10. So Lions and the under for me.
Well, that would,
and that brings us to our favorite bet of the week.
Hang on. If your pick comes to fruition, that would be a 25-point loss after a 25. What was it Monday? After a 25-point loss, after a 38-point loss, there would have to be some kind of Bengals record for futility in there in a 3-game spread, right? I mean, that would be.
I think you might want to start looking it up right now if I were you. Because it's probably going to happen.
I probably do need to start looking that up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's your favorite bet this week? You got one for us?
I do. I'm going to go back to the NFL teaser. I'm going to take Indianapolis. It'll be a 6.5 pointer. So I'm going to take Indy down to a pick 'em. I'm going to take the Jets up to getting 9 at home against Dallas, who can't stop a soul.
You say 9.5?
What's that?
Was it 9 or 9.5?
9 flat. If I'm doing a 6.5 point teaser. Indy's down to a pick 'em. Jets up to 9. I'm going to take Arizona down to -1 at home against Tennessee. I'm going to take Buffalo down to 2 at home against New England. So a 14. 4-teamer. Yeah, I'm sticking with that.
All right. So that was Colts pick'em, Jets +9, Cards +1.5. You said?
No, Cards -1.
-1, and Bills -2.
-2, correct.
All right. That is Skinny's 4-team teaser for this week. I'm going with Penn State -24.5 at UCLA. And you might be like, really? On the road?
UCLA is awful.
UCLA is 0-4. They lost to New Mexico 35-10. And Utah 43-10. Penn State might win this game by 50 coming off that loss that they just came off. Because here's the thing. Penn State doesn't have letdown. They're not like some bad team that has all these issues from week to week. It's literally just in those big game moments they stink. All the rest of the time, they are fine. They will bounce back from this, and they will win this game by more than 25 points. So There you go. There's my pick of the week.
I like it.
Moving to 6-0. I was going, I can just mention it real quick. There's nothing to talk about here, but one really cool thing with college basketball and all the rule changes, and you can now do public exhibitions and have fans and all that stuff, is teams are starting to change how they're doing their preseason, which is pretty awesome. And Cincinnati's leading the way this year with that. They're going to play in 2 big-time televised exhibitions. One, they're on the road at Michigan on Friday, October 17th at 6 p.m. on ESPN+. And then they're at Arkansas the following Friday, October 24th at 8 p.m. on SEC Network. That's freaking awesome.
I think it is too. And I think that, again, treat scrimmages differently than anything else. I know we always get over skis, but I think it does give you at least a little gauge for what this team might be, right?
Yeah, well, and it's a completely different ballgame when you're gauging like UC Arkansas, UC Michigan, Kentucky, right. Georgetown, I think is going to happen this year. When you're gauging games like that versus you played a NAIA school, yeah, there's actually something to take away from it. It's not an exact representation of a real game.
We always, though, the narrative gauging the secret scrimmages was, you lost to such and such by 8. Well, what did he do in this? Did he play this combination? Did he try? I mean, now you can see you can literally see the transparency of what they're doing. That's
why it's awesome, because the secret scrimmages, they would sometimes do those like a practice, and they all lied about what was going on and stuff. The public exhibition aspect of it changes the way the coaches approach it. They don't have that confidence to be like, I'm going to go ahead and just work on some things here. They're like, no, this is going to be public. People are going to be watching it. Our star player may not play if he's dinged up, or he might not play as many minutes, or we might try to work on some stuff, but it's not going to be that same aspect you get with those closed scrimmages. It's an awesome change. And these 2 games for UC fans it's just something to fill the month of October while the Bengals are stinking it up and they're trying to move on. NKU will play What was that?
No more secret scrimmages.
Secret scrimmage. NKU is playing Ashland at Dayton on Monday, October 20th at 6 p.m. That game will be public and not televised, I don't believe, but you can go up and watch that one. Xavier is playing Murray State on Saturday, October 18th at 2 p.m. in a public exhibition. Kentucky has Big Blue Madness next Saturday at 6 p.m. They have the following Friday at 7 p.m. They have the Blue White exhibition. Then they host Purdue in a public exhibition at Rupp on Friday, October 24th at 6 p.m. And then another public exhibition at Rupp on Thursday, October 30th against Georgetown. So
is that Georgetown, Kentucky, or Georgetown?
I thought it was against the real Georgetown, right?
Maybe. I'm just asking. I don't know.
Let's look that up real quick, because that's a good distinction. They do play Georgetown, Kentucky sometimes, don't they?
Yes, they do.
No, it's the real Georgetown, the Blue G.
All right, good.
Yeah. All right. You scared me there for a minute. I was like, I'm pretty sure.
You know what should happen in a scrimmage? Why have the Georgetowns never played a scrimmage? Or maybe they haven't, I just don't know.
Like the Tigers?
Yeah, the Georgetown scrimmage. Why have they never done that?
That's a good point. I mean, it's probably a bit of a trip for the NAIA school to make, or I don't think that the Hoyas are coming to Georgetown, Kentucky.
No, they're not coming to Georgia.
They could visit the Toyota plant.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah, get a little NIL deal from Toyota while they're there. All right, we got one Ask Skinny Anything that we'll get to here. Just a perfect timing to finish this up. Skinny, please rank the Reds' 21st century playoff debacles. You have 2010 versus the Phillies, which was the no-hitter and error fest. You have the 2012 versus the Giants, which was the roll-in air and Posey grand slam off of Latos. You had the 2013 versus the Pirates, which was the Cueto nervous breakdown. You had the 2020 versus the Braves, which was 0 runs. And then you have, of course, this year's debacle against the Dodgers, which was simply titled by our guy Dan, Bug versus Windshield.
All right, so I'm
cockroaches, some might say.
I'm ranking them from least crushing to most crushing. Is that right?
He didn't list how to rank them, so you can choose. He just said rank the Reds' 21st century playoff debacle. So you want to go?
I'll rank this one as not even a debacle. You just weren't good enough. So I'm going to rank this one dead last.
Okay.
I'm going to rank the Cueto one fourth. I'm going to rank the COVID year where they snuck in the short season and expand the playoffs third, just because they didn't score a run and you had enough pitching to get through and you just didn't. That was really disappointing to me. That was like a team all year. You're like, this is a good team that's not playing like a good team. And you thought, okay, they snuck in and now they're going to be okay because at least they got a fighting chance. Number 2 is going to be the Roy Halladay no-hitter. God rest his soul. That was embarrassing. And number 1 to me is 2012, because that was a World Series championship caliber team to me. And you blew it, simply blew it.
Yeah, I think that's a good ranking. The only one that I would disagree with you a little bit about is that Pirates series, just because the image of Cueto dropping the ball on the mound will be forever burned into my mind. Like, when I think of Reds playoff meltdowns, I immediately flash back to Cueto dropping the ball.
That's a good point.
That's the first thing in my head. So maybe I'm not remembering that series as fully, but like the Cueto moment, if nothing else, leads me to believe that's got to be higher.
Yeah, I could flip-flop it with the COVID year maybe, but I can't put it above the Holiday. I mean, you got no hit, man. I mean, that's bad, and it's only topped by literally blowing the 2012, where that was a really good team.
Yep.
I mean, that team had everything. It had a lineup, starting pitching. I mean, that team had everything.
And instead, we get more Cincinnati postseason futility.
Yes, we do, Rick.
That's all we got.
All right. Appreciate it very much. We'll be back next week with some more Bengals debacle, potentially. A little bit of college football. We're inching closer, as Rick pointed out, to some college basketball to talk about as well. So thanks for being with us. We're back next week. For Rick Broering, I'm Richard Skinner. It's been the Skinny Podcast, the weekly Poe Pre edition, presented by Blake the Attorney Mason.